So what was working at Applebee's like, and then how do you think that's helped you like today, just being in the military and just dealing with people?
So that's a loaded question because my major in college was communication studies, and that when I worked over summers at Applebee's, I really had a lot of contact with different people.
Yeah.
And when I got to college, that was my first real experience of anything outside of small town Nebraska. And so it really impacted the way that I communicate now with individuals.
What's your advice for anyone trying to discover who they are?
There's a lot of different versions of yourself. And so when you say who you are, you're going to be different all the time.
Yeah.
And who I was when I was...
What was life like growing up?
So I actually had
so how has your experience been to date?
It has been wild. All good things. I had very great experiences coming in. I kind of hoped you would ask this question because I thought about it a lot. A couple months ago, I realized that I have...
How would you define potential, and then how would you define effort, or do you see them as the same thing?
I don't see them as the same thing because some people have a lot of potential to be great.
Yeah.
But they just don't care. And I'm going to tie this back to my college career. I loved running for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, but I didn't care. I had a lot of potential to be a fantastic athlete, and I wasn't mentally focused enough to...
Where does your mental toughness come from? Because to me, like, it's you're very mentally strong, right? Mentally tough. So it's just and it's not necessarily, it's something to me. It's just something that builds over time. But yeah, where do you get it from?
I haven't always had it. I've really struggled in college, and there was an option for me to go down a path that I wasn't meant for, and the path that I'm on now. And there are very distinct differences between those paths. And my mom, she said,
how important is emotional intelligence for people at all levels in the present and then also moving forward?
Yeah, I love that question because I think emotional intelligence plays a lot into what we...
What was your guilty pleasure food your senior year in college?
Oh,
and then is it still the same?
I loved...
There was a giant billboard with your message on it for the world to see. What would your message say? And where would you place that billboard?
I'm going to go back to...
I've never had to unscrew another woman's light bulb in order to shine. My guest on this episode is someone who just has amazing presence, someone who from the second I met this individual, I knew there was something special. And it's we're both in the military, and it's a younger service member in terms of rank, but someone whose presence and just sheer attitude absolutely has presence. Without further ado, passing the torch with Jesse Smith starts now. First and foremost, welcome to my show. Thanks for joining me. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm really good. I'm excited. Yeah.
What'd you think of that quote?
I love that quote. I actually heard that quote very early on in my high school career.
Yep.
And it's one I definitely try to live by.
Yeah.
I love it.
What was like? What do you remember about high school?
High school was a very interesting time. I look back realizing that I probably could have done a lot more, but at the same time, I was a very active athlete.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be involved in as many activities as I could, and it was just a really good experience. There were goods and bads for sure.
Yeah, you were active because I read that you won 15 medals in high school.
I did. Yes.
Yeah. In what sport?
I ran track and field and cross country.
What did that lead to?
So post high school, I went off to compete at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, where I had my pet event in the 800, but I also ran the 600 and a couple relays. So.
Now, I saw the videos and everything, and you're just booking it and stuff. And is it Bayard High School? Is that where you went?
Baird.
Yep. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And most people are like, are you from Bayard? And I'm like, close.
No, that's really cool. But yeah, I think it's so impressive. There's a lot that I want to get into, right? So we'll get into like your military background and everything, but I'm just fascinated for like the college, like just running track, and even for, it's Nebraska, right? So it's, it's impressive, I think, at any college level.
Oh, absolutely.
But Nebraska's a big time school. What was that pressure like, or maybe like during that? Let's backtrack. What was it like when you found out Nebraska was interested in you?
Yeah, so it was actually a very wild experience. I was looking into a lot of different colleges for a lot of different reasons. And when Nebraska, I remember Coach David Harris, he had sent me a handwritten letter telling me that they were interested in officially recruiting me. And when I mean, I'm Nebraska born and raised. That was probably the most exciting letter I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
And really quickly, my senior year, we ended up going on some visits, and it just, I mean, the facilities there, I don't know if you've seen them. It really is a good seller to somebody from a small farm town.
No, was he the only, were they the only school that sent you a handwritten note?
No. So there was a lot of Nebraska schools that actually reached out. I was also contacted by a few other colleges, but those were more of your I would say more formal letters versus the handwritten letters.
I just like the idea of the handwritten letters because that's very so how did that make you feel in the moment, and how important are like those small actions like a handwritten note? Because even I've had some random conversations and I was like, Smith, let me stop you in the hallway and just give you some words of encouragement. But how important are those moments, those small things in the moment?
I would say when you're taking steps to make a big decision for your life, those smaller things have more of an impact than I would say any big offers.
Yeah.
The handwritten letters really are what were kind of my selling point when I chose the colleges. I had a fantastic college, Doane University, about an hour away from Lincoln. They sent me a handwritten letter. He called me. He was one of the most fantastic coaches ever. Same with Coach Brady Bonzel at UNK, University of Kearney. And they all sent me handwritten letters, and those were my top 3 colleges that I really was going to look at. So it made all the difference.
Oh, that's really cool. I think it's just a lost art, right? Like just handwritten notes, or just versus like a generic email or something, right?
Well, I can tell they put time into it, and a coach that's going to put time into you for a letter is likely going to do the same thing for your career. And I mean that in all aspects, not just, college sports. So
we might go back to that.
Okay.
I don't know, there's one question I've been dying to ask you because we have a very similar background, it looks like, in something. What comes to mind when I say Applebee's?
I love Applebee's.
Yeah.
I worked at Applebee's.
Yeah, exactly. Did you wait tables and bartend there?
I did, yeah. That was probably my favorite job, to be honest.
So before I joined, I used to wait tables at Outback.
My goodness.
Yeah.
We never had did I have an Outback? I don't know if we had an Outback in my area.
Yeah.
So.
And coincidentally, there were 3 Martins that worked there. And so I went by Foster, and back then, I don't even know if it's still a thing, but Foster's Beer used to always have the beer commercials say Foster's Australian for beer.
Okay.
Yeah, so
did not know that.
It was just like my way in with the table.
Yeah, you snuck over. You're like, hey, by the way, let me encourage you to buy this.
So what was working at Applebee's like, and then how do you think that's helped you like today, just being in the military and just dealing with people?
So that's a loaded question because my major in college was communication studies, and that when I worked over summers at Applebee's, I really had a lot of contact with different people.
Yeah.
And when I got to college, that was my first real experience of anything outside of small town Nebraska. And so it really impacted the way that I communicate now with individuals. I had a supervisor, I had peers that I was working with, that I was helping, and then I had different customer sets. And I would say that impacts all the way into the military. I mean, it's in everything I do. Every day, you're constantly communicating with those people. And I would say that it has positively impacted me in a good way. Yeah.
No, I think about, it's customer service, right?
I love people.
Yeah, but just meeting so many different people, and it's helped me like with confidence and all that stuff. Now.
Absolutely. I would say the best part about working at Applebee's with where I am in the military now is when people ask me questions that I don't know the answer to. That being able to fire back anything that comes at you has been very helpful.
Yeah. So pre-Applebee's and like pre-track in Nebraska, what was life like growing up?
So I actually had a very, very good life. I do have separated parents, and I have an incredible stepfather who really set the tone for my family. So we grew up in a town of about 1,200. I graduated with 22 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very small, and I never really had any outside experiences. I worked as a waitress at a cafe for my godmother, and that was my life: sports and working and having fun. That was about it.
Yeah.
But life was good. I have very loving parents. Things were really good. A lot of support in my small town.
what drove you to join the military? And especially because I know you have your degree. So.
I'm actually 3 credits short of my bachelor's degree, and that actually plays into this. So once I hit my 5th year in college, because I did 5 years, and my only goal in college was to compete. I didn't really care for academics. It wasn't something that I was super focused on. I look back now wishing I would have, but hindsight 2020, COVID hit my 5th year, and everything shut down and I wasn't competing. And I was like, I don't want to be in college anymore. So I just stopped. I just quit. And I remember 2 days before my 23rd birthday, I woke up. I was living in Lincoln at the time, and I called my dad. I said, hey, I'm moving back home, set my room up. It's an 8-hour drive back home, maybe 7, but I said, also, I think I'm joining the military. That's it. That there was no any thoughts behind. I just woke up and said, I need change. And I need something to hold me accountable. And the military is the best option. And my dad was prior military. He got honorably discharged, broke his back, unfortunately. He was security forces. And so he had always encouraged me. And I was like, oh, I'm not for the military. Not for me.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, after my 23rd birthday, I moved home, met with a recruiter, and signed a month later. And that is just the start of it. I don't know what it was. I woke up one day and said, I really want to be held accountable for what I'm doing. And the only way that's going to happen is if I join. I said, I'll finish my degree and I'll commission in the future if that's an option.
No, and we're lucky to have you. But why the Air Force instead of the Navy, Marines, Army? I mean, you had your pick, I'd assume.
I never really thought about another branch. I have Marine family members who were like, I just don't think it's for you.
Yeah.
Not anything negative. They're just like, I just don't think it was going to suit you. Yeah. I had Coast Guard family members who really encouraged me to do that, but that didn't, I don't know, it just didn't suit me. And so when I joined, I really only talked to an Air Force recruiter. That was it. I said that, yep, this is it.
And then how has your experience been over the past, because you've been in for 4 years now, right? Or about to hit 4 years.
For the Air Force.
Yeah.
Actually, I just hit my 2 year over January. About 2.5 years in. So I joined in the end of December 2021.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So how has your experience been to date?
It has been wild. All good things. I had very great experiences coming in. I kind of hoped you would ask this question because I thought about it a lot. A couple months ago, I realized that I have had the privilege of having such incredible people help me out. And I don't mean just military people. I mean our civilians here. But I've always had, what's the word I'm looking for? I've always had people who were interested in me doing more. Yeah. And in a good way. And I've never not experienced that since I joined. I mean, in BMT, I had 2 master sergeants, women. Very powerful women. Honestly, those were the women I wanted to be like. One was going for her blue rope and one was going for senior.
Let's give them a shout out. What are
Master Sergeant Thompson and Master Sergeant Earl.
Do you know their first names?
Yes. Master Sergeant Holly Earl and Master Sergeant, I think it was Chantel Thompson.
Okay.
Very phenomenal women.
Awesome.
Really encouraged me. And I remember it's Master Sergeant Holly Earl wrote on the back of our BMT picture, Future Chief, and signed it. And that was the only one that she did that for in that room. And I remember seeing that and I was like, this was the right move.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I have been nothing short of encouraged by everybody that I've met in my military experience.
I want to kind of jump on that because I think it even goes back to the handwritten note, right? How important, especially for someone's first line, especially if someone is a first line supervisor, they're setting the tone.
Yep.
Or first experience, for a brand new airman or even like a brand new young officer or anyone joining the military. How important is it for that first line supervisor or someone who is making that setting the first impression, the bar for those new people joining the military? Because I feel like that right there kind of it builds mojo and momentum, right?
Absolutely. I think if somebody is showing not only potential but effort, and I think that's really hard for a lot of people because you don't know what you're putting effort into. And I know my experience has been a lot different than maybe people coming in straight out of college or straight out of high school. Yeah. I came in at 23. A lot of people that I work with, my peers are 18.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I think when you see somebody giving effort, that is where it is most important to start nurturing that effort. Yeah. You don't want to you don't want to be somebody that gets away with anything, but somebody that's held accountable. And I think that when somebody shows that they care enough to be held accountable and still work hard, that first line supervisor is going to make or break their career. And I firmly believe that.
No, yeah. Like, so how would you define a difference? Like, how would you define potential, and then how would you define effort, or do you see them as the same thing?
I don't see them as the same thing, because some people have a lot of potential to be great.
Yeah.
But they just don't care. And I'm going to tie this back to my college career. I loved running for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, but I didn't care. I had a lot of potential to be a fantastic athlete, and I wasn't mentally focused enough to reach my potential. And that was on me. And so there is a very big difference, I personally think, between potential and effort.
How might someone gain a broader perspective to see the world through someone else's eyes?
Proper perspective to see it through someone else's eyes.
Yeah, to see, yeah. Because I like what you said about like just talking about effort and all that stuff, and you know, because someone could very easily, whether it's you or someone like a brand new airman or any junior enlisted member in any service, like coming in, where someone's that supervisor's trying to make them do more, but there's not really like a reason why, or they're not. But I think there's been something like where maybe people throughout your career who have tried to look at things like through your eyes, not so much you specifically, but like just like this airman, right? But I guess just like in general, like what's your advice for someone on like how to like sit back and just gain more of a perspective and consider the other person?
Okay, I'm understanding now. Yeah, sorry. I would say that to recognize that not everybody has the same goals as you, and not everybody grew up the same way as you. And I think that that's really important in finding what motivates somebody. Now, a lot of people aren't really motivated by getting attention. Some people are motivated by just getting their work done. Yeah. And I am not that person. I am motivated by words of encouragement and by awards. And it's not in a way that's, I would say, a bad thing, but I would say everybody has something that they're motivated by. And as a supervisor, that's your job to find out and to see it through like, okay, maybe I'm motivated by awards, but I know I have a peer, he's not. He just likes to get the job done and know that he did it. And that is what motivates him. And so we've definitely tried to give him more things that are not spotlight, but work. And he loves it. And he loves it. So I would definitely say that would work best as a supervisor. Find what motivates your people.
So I did have a question, like, and I wrote down, like, to me, it just seems like you have the world in the palm of your hand. Like, what inspired you or what drove you to enlist? But it was, you know, you shared that it was just kind of like, I'm going to do this, right? But what motivated you to enlist? But what continues to motivate you, and who's also, like you talked about the two master sergeants from basic training, but who else is motivating you now?
I get motivation from a lot of different things depending on the topic and in different aspects of my life. So there's not one person or group that motivates me in the military. It's consistent support. I mean, I remember you and I were chatting and we were with Chief Yeager. Okay. I had the privilege of talking to you guys in the hallway.
Was this like in October or something, or in the fall?
Yeah. It was during that little breakfast meeting. And I remember you just had the greatest things to say about me. And you said, whatever you choose to do, I know you're going to be great out of that, whether it's commissioning or being the next Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. And I have been privileged enough to have that continual support from you, from my family. First thing I did was go back home and tell my family. And they knew that that's what they are supportive of. And so I wouldn't say there's any specific piece driving me. I want to be better for myself, but also for those who come after me. And that's, I would say, my biggest motivator is I've had the privilege of receiving so much support. I want others to continue to have that as well.
No, that's awesome. And I love that.
So I definitely called my mom. I said, Mom, you'll never believe what Chief Foster said.
Yeah, she's like, first of all, who's Chief Foster? I love that. Thanks for sharing that, right? So that's good. I have a couple random questions I want to kind of...
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll just pretend you're back at Applebee's and someone's trying to switch up their order.
Yep, all the time.
All the time.
Literally all the time.
Oh. Where does your mental toughness come from? Because to me, like, it's very you're very mentally strong,
Mhm.
right? Mentally tough. So it's just and it's not necessarily, it's something to me. It's just something that builds over time. But
Yeah.
yeah, where do you get it from?
I haven't always had it. I've really struggled in college,
Yeah.
and there was an option for me to go down a path that I wasn't meant for and the path that I'm on now. And there are very distinct differences between those paths. And my mom, she said, you have to decide that you don't want to live that way anymore. And you have to decide what you want to be.
Yeah.
She's like, there's everything out there for you. Make the damn decision. That, honestly, I think it triggered something in me.
Yeah.
And since then, I recognize that my choices are mine alone. I can't control what other people do.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating thing in the world. It really is.
I know.
But that really, I would say I wasn't really mentally tough until maybe a couple years ago. I honestly believe that. I think that there's things you can be mentally tough about, but to consistently be mentally tough, that doesn't, I just didn't have that all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Shout out to mom, right?
Because oh my gosh, that woman.
How many people listen? This is what happens when you listen to mom, right?
Oh my gosh, she wishes she could tell me I told you so. But she doesn't, because she knows better that I will be like,
yeah,
I don't want to talk to you.
My mom has been right about so many things.
Oh, it's crazy the amount of times that my parents have truly just been right, and I have been so against listening to them just because it's them. So, yeah, exactly.
So, like you said, when you were mentally weak, was this like right after COVID, or was this during COVID, or?
There's been different periods. It was, I would say, throughout my sophomore to junior year of college, I was really mentally weak. I didn't really have a lot of focus. I kind of just liked going and hanging out with my friends and not sleeping and, being a college rat, basically. And I would say that was when I was at my weakest. And it really showed me that I had so much more potential than what I was doing. Yeah. And I think that's really where the mental toughness comes from, is I know what I'm capable of, even if I can't see it. And that's really what I needed to focus on. And I did. And I feel like it's done wonders.
No, it's great. And like, I think it's all tying in together, because there's a certain presence that you have, a mental maturity, and just a poise about you. But overall, how has your background impacted your ability to build a relationship? Because you're in a good way, like you're very infectious, right? Like your positivity. But but how was I have to make sure in a good way.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You're infectious.
You're infectious. Get away.
Yeah. But how has your background impacted your ability to build relationships?
My background being just in general.
I purposely asked these like broad, just to kind of to see just leave the door open and however you want to answer. But
so I would say a lot of my ability to connect with people and have that sort of infectious, I don't know, maybe motivation is what I would call it, is really started in high school. I had a lot of peers that looked up to me and parents that encouraged me to help their children.
Yeah.
And that's really where being supportive of other people has really done wonderful things for me. And when you're supportive of things, like, I know I had friends who were so excited. It was prior, I did speech in high school. And yeah, I loved speech. It was probably I wish I would have done it sooner, but I had a couple peers be so excited for speech. And I was like, that's weird. But they were so excited. And I realized, okay, let me take a peek at that. And I built that relationship, and it led into far more than just speech. It was any event that I did, they were so supportive of me as well. And, my parents, my mom especially, she's very emotionally intelligent. And her emotional intelligence has rubbed off on me in the best way. Reading people, and I don't say reading people is like, let me study. It's more like, read the room, know what's going on. And that helped me connect with a lot of other people when I realized, being happy all the time that's not the way to go. You're not going to rub off on every single people. Sometimes people just need you to be sad with them. And I've really recognized that as I feel like it's an ability to make people happier around me and want to be around me.
That's awesome. I like you talked about emotional intelligence, just as a young airman, just a young person in the military, but also a young leader. And times have changed a lot, even since when I first joined. But how, from your perspective, how important is emotional intelligence for people at all levels in the present and then also moving forward?
Yeah, I love that question, because I think emotional intelligence plays a lot into what we can and can't accomplish.
Yeah.
I think especially for people who you don't have to want to lead to be a leader in that aspect of emotional intelligence, but the better you are, and I know that there's a lot of opportunities here to go to seminars that talk about emotional intelligence. The more aware you are of it, I think the better off not only you are, but the people around you are.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's hard when somebody may think they have emotional intelligence, but they really struggle when it's something other than happy, or when it's something other than, feeling pretty even, when heightened emotions come up. I do see a lot of people struggle with that, and it makes it harder for them to accurately manage the situation, whether that's a supervisor airman role, or I've seen it a lot where airmen are very frustrated and not thinking of the bigger picture because they're really struggling with that emotional intelligence. Why is this person talking to me this way or reacting this way? They really struggle with it. And so I think emotional intelligence is huge in that aspect.
No, that's amazing. You even talked about, like, in high school, people, friends and parents were seeking you out. And even everything you just discussed about, you learned a lot about emotional intelligence from your mom.
Oh, she's incredible.
Again, shout out to Mom.
Yes, always.
Yeah, what's Mom's name?
Celeste.
What a cool name.
Yeah, I know. She's incredible.
But what's your advice for anyone trying to discover who they are?
There's a lot of different versions of yourself. And so when you say who you are, you're going to be different all the time.
Yeah.
And who I was when I was a senior in college is not who I was the year prior. When you're looking for who you are, you really need to focus not on who you are, but who you want to be. And you can make yourself who you want to be. I firmly believe that in different ways. I've seen a lot of different versions of myself, and this is the one I'm most proud of.
Okay.
I truly believe that, but I didn't know that this was the version of myself I needed to be until I started taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Just simple. I don't mean like join the military. No, I mean like waking up and doing what was best for my mind, body, and soul. Okay. And that didn't come out of thin air. I had to really focus on that. So.
No, that's I think the toughest conversations people have are often with themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I have a lot of tough conversations with myself, discouraging conversations where it's just and I'm not sure like how it happens. It just does. We can't control that. But then I try to do my best to give myself positive affirmations, right? But what's kind of like do you have like a go-to phrase or just something you say to yourself when you're just kind of feeling like a little bit in a slump, but then it's just like, I'm gonna do this and like make sure I am taking care of like because I love that we said about taking care of like your mind, your body, and all that, your soul and all that. So, what's kind of like your reset?
I don't say I have any specific phrases. I think the first thing that came to mind when you asked that was know that I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and try something different. If it didn't work today, that's cool. I'll try a different mindset tomorrow. I guess that would be my quote is just try again tomorrow.
No, that's good. All right, have some lighter questions.
Okay.
All right, you referenced a couple of times about your time in college. So, like, what was your guilty pleasure food your junior, senior year in college?
Oh,
and then is it still the same?
I loved Cane's.
Raising Cane's?
Raising Cane's.
Okay.
I loved Raising Cane's. That was my guilty pleasure all the time.
Yeah.
It was, I would say I don't have it as often now. I'm from Nebraska. Well, we'll take it easy on me, but I never had sushi until my middle to late years of college, and now that is my guilty pleasure. I will eat sushi all day, every day if I can.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm from Oklahoma, so I get sushi in Oklahoma, Nebraska. It's a little sus, right?
It's questionable for sure. But then I see people in California getting sushi from the gas station.
So, but in their defense, so I've lived in California. So my first duty assignment was Japan, northern Japan.
Wow.
So like
sushi phenomenal.
Yeah, right. And after that, I was like, I can't eat sushi again, just because it's like the pinnacle. Then I was in California for 3 years, pretty good out there. And then I was even before here in Ohio, I was stationed in Hawaii for 4.5 years.
So you've had all the good food.
Yeah, but I feel like now I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, like, no, that's fair.
Yeah, just like now I can't eat pineapple just because they said in Hawaii, like it's grilled pineapples everywhere. Yeah. So if you go out to a restaurant, it's like, if you go to Applebee's, they serve grilled pineapple, right? And it's just here, it's just not the same.
No,
right?
It's not.
Yeah. when you think of a movie image that depicts leadership, who or what comes to mind?
No.
It could be anything.
I don't watch a lot of movies.
Or TV
I don't
show.
watch a lot of TV.
Yeah.
Something that depicts.
Yeah. It could be
leadership.
anything. Yeah.
This is so very helpful.
No, okay. Is there a person that you instantly think of, like, when you hear the word leadership, whether it's a historical figure or a current person?
Do you know who, well, she's a lieutenant now, but Technical Sergeant McGinnis, Sarah McGinnis?
Yeah, so her spouse was, we worked together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call her,
Sergeant Gaddy.
No, like, she's cool. Yeah,
So,
McGinnis is, yeah.
I was very lucky to have a lot of her leadership and guidance.
Yeah.
She wasn't my supervisor, but she's
good people.
She paved the way for when I joined here. And when I think of leadership and who I want to be like, and I try to copy.
Is she here? Is she back right back?
No,
yeah.
She's I want to say she's in Florida.
Okay.
So she's out there doing PA stuff, but she's a lieutenant. She went commission program, but that is a person that I would like to embody her leadership qualities. She's phenomenal. Yeah. So huge shout out to her.
No, that's cool. I'm asking you a couple questions I ask on every single podcast. Yeah. Do you have like a hidden skill or like something you like besides running and just being overall like an awesome person, but do you have like a cool skill or something that you do that for which you're not well known?
Man, I'm very good at it's hard. That's actually such a hard question because my whole life my personality was sports. My personality was running, and that was what I was good at. I can't draw. I'm really bad at it. I'm not super like artistic in that way. Terrible at skiing. What am I good at? I don't know what a hidden skill is.
That's fine. I have another question for you.
Okay.
How long did you wait tables at Applebee's for?
So at Applebee's, I was there for 4 years.
Oh, it's a long time.
Yeah.
So do you still have part of that menu memorized?
No. Okay, the 2 for $20?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah. My favorite part of it, because everybody would be like, what's the Bourbon Street chicken and shrimp?
So, so like pretend I just asked you that question. Yeah. Like, go ahead and respond. Like if you're...
Well, I'd be confused. Because I'm like, man, it's bourbon chicken with shrimp, but it's got mashed potatoes. They're garlicky mashed potatoes. Phenomenal. Okay. But like, people would ask me questions. I would say more about the drink menu.
Okay.
They'd be like, oh, can you give me something extra? Yeah, for $5. I can put a little extra in there for $5.
No, that's cool. So before Outback, I also, at the same time, I worked at Radio Shack.
And that was fun.
Yeah, it was, and like even in like 1999, I joined in 2002.
Okay.
But even back then, Radio Shack was going out of business. Like
really?
Yeah, but before that, I waited tables at a Tex-Mex restaurant, and I still have like that lunch menu like memorized.
Do you really?
Yeah, because I waited tables there for like same like you, like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I worked every single day, like 6 days a week, except for Sundays. Okay. And and there were 7 items and stuff, and it's ingrained in me, and I still.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I don't. But I started serving tables when I was about 14 back home. And I do remember that she had this wonderful, her name was Brenda. She was the owner and cook, and she had something called the Cotador, and it was what her son made, and it was 2 enchiladas with rice and beans on top, cheese, and what else did she, and pork chili.
Oh, wow.
And that was very popular. People loved the Cotador, and lettuce. Can't forget the lettuce.
Okay.
And I remember that like the back of my hand. That was my favorite food to eat and serve.
So, that's cool.
Yeah, random, but that's one of the menus I do remember.
I'm going to say a couple names.
Gosh.
And just give me one-word responses. So.
I'm really bad at this.
Colonel Hartstein.
Phenomenal.
What do you like about her?
She's one of the individuals who's very invested in me and my career. And I love that she's so supportive of it. She scares me in the best way. I don't mean that in a negative way, but because I feel like she truly believes I have something to offer.
Yeah. And
I just want to make her proud. So yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah. She's always all bubbly and stuff.
And even when she isn't, she is. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, she's cool. Colonel Gamble.
Powerful. I've only talked to her a few times.
Yeah.
And I love that when she commands a room when she walks in, maybe because she's a commander, but yeah.
It's genuine. Does. Like, it's just that.
It is. Yeah. It's not, I don't feel like there's a show or anything. Like when she walks in, I want to pay attention.
Yeah, she's honest. She also does a great job of asking questions. Like, yeah, she's great at like critical thinking. Last person, Chief D. Fran.
One word. There's a lot of words that come to mind when it comes to him, but I would say a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like about his leadership?
I like that he's blunt.
Yeah.
I think I haven't met a lot of people throughout my life that are super genuine and blunt about it, because he doesn't gloss over the facts. If I am complaining about something, he's going to call me out and say, well, should have done it differently, you know?
Yeah. Or
responding in a very leadership style. How can I change that?
Yeah.
And he's the one that actually put my senior airman patch on when I got to rank up with BTZ. He's always been supportive, and a great person.
Yeah, no.
Yep.
I'm
glad that it's funny that you asked about him, because I just think to myself, I'm like, there are a lot of things I could say about Senior D. Fran when it comes to one word. You know, I feel like a lot of people, he's very genuine.
Yeah.
He's open door. Even as our group SEL, you know, he's there and present. And that's, from what I've heard from other airmen that aren't at NASIC, that's very unheard of.
Yeah. So. No, it's all things you said about him are true.
Yeah.
He's a very genuine guy. Last question. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. This is how I end every single podcast.
Okay.
It's my go-to question. I've had it since January of 2018. So yeah. But it's funny to have people tell me, like, man, I listen to all your podcast episodes, like, and I'll have them on as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll ask them this question, like, oh, I've never heard that question before. And I'm like,
that's me.
No.
I've watched a couple, and
it's
just said the same thing.
If there was a giant billboard with your message on it for the world to see, what would your message say? And where would you place that billboard?
I'm going to go back to the quote
that
you said at the beginning. I've never had to unscrew another person's light in order to shine. I think that was the correct way that it was written. Do I have to choose one place to put it?
It's up to you.
It's a really good one. I would put it around colleges.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's an important place for people to learn and to really find what they want to do, what their niche is. Yeah. And if they're not, and truthfully, I wouldn't say just colleges, because I don't know, that doesn't include the trade school individuals or people who just don't want to do college, which, incredible, that's okay too. I don't think there's any specific place that it needs to be, but I think that it needs to be seen.
So. Love it. I think that's so perfect, and I wouldn't end on that. Hey, any parting shots or parting thoughts that you want to tell people?
Yeah, thank you. I think this is incredible, and I think that having a leader such as yourself reach out to even a young airman like myself, very new in my career, it is important that we have people like you and opportunities like this, and to be able to go back and to look at a podcast and see that a chief has a senior airman who's been in for 2 years on his podcast. I think that's important.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Yeah. So